Okay, OET right now, letter number 20, I'm not sure if it's 26 or 27. Can't remember, and I can't be bothered to take a look. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, someone sent me a letter in the group at the weekend, and as I said, usually I'm pretty busy at weekends, don't have time, I'm out all weekend. But it's Monday morning now, I'm back, so I'm going to have a look at it. Now, one of the things that I have to say, right, the English part of this is very good, alright? However, too long, 274, right? Even though they don't count the words. It's about the writing style. So, let me get my pen. Public version, criteria, so the usual disclaimer applies, you've got your purpose, content, conciseness, okay. So, this is it. This is the thing we have to look at. Irrelevant information and how effectively is it summarized. Now, while that writing style may be good in other, genres or types of text or context, for this purpose, if you look at all the samples on the OET official site, you'll see they're pretty sparse in terms of how effectively the case is summarized. So, irrelevant information, and it's a writing style. If you've used 4 or 5 words when one would do, is there anything that we could leave out? That's something that you have to think about, right? So, how distracting, does it affect the clarity? But here, anything that we could leave out. Now, I don't have the case notes for this, but as I've mentioned before, for my purpose, I shouldn't really need them, because if you've written a good letter, everything should be clear. I shouldn't need them, Your purpose, and then the narrative that you're constructing, the story that you're telling, should be clear, okay? So this is a little bit long. Now, as I've also said before, what you do, you go to the task first. As I say, I don't have the case notes for this, but you write into an occupational therapist. So we need to consider, right, audience and purpose. So, appropriate to the reader. Okay. Appropriate to the reader. This is the audience part. Appropriate to the genre. And reader, discipline, and knowledge. So these 3 points should give you some clue as to what needs changing in this particular letter. You write into an occupation or therapist, and there's a lot of detail. There's too much detail. I don't need this. I don't need all this. Don't need it all, because I'm an occupation or therapist. Now, so presumably this is it, right? This is the task part. So looks like this guy is going home. Assess his house, make the mods. Right, that's it. That's what I need. That's what you want me to do, right? Mods, go to his house, take a look at it. Does he need something in the bathroom, a toilet, because of his wheelchair, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't need all this detail. Don't need it. Don't need it. Right? That's what the examiners would say. Don't need it. Sorry, oops, get back. Don't need it. I'm the occupation or therapist, right? And you want me to sort this guy's house out for when he's going home. So I don't need to know in this particular letter an x-ray was done which showed, but I don't need it. All I need to know is what's his problem. So he's a paraplegic. That's it. So a lot of this stuff you can just omit. Okay? A lot of it. Don't need it. It's not my job, my business, right? You want me to check his house out put him some handrails in the bathroom, get him one of them special showers that you can drive in your wheelchair. I don't know, but I don't need all, that stuff. So that's something that you've got to consider immediately. So writing to refer, Mr. Black, result of nerve damage. So, okay, my paraplegia, all right. Well, you could put that nerve kind of damage, but you could just say nerve kind of damage. I don't need to know all this. He would require, well, would, you mean he does, you mean he requires further assessment and support to adapt to. So, I'm writing to refer Mr. Black, who requires blah, 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 blah. Refer Mr. Black, permanent paraplegic, blah, blah, blah. We don't really need that, nerve kind of damage in thoracic vertebrae. I mean, it doesn't matter to me what caused it. You want me to go sort his house out, so I don't need that. So that could be shorter. Admitted to the emergency department by accident, an X-ray showed. You don't need that. X-ray, CT scan. Showed multiple fractures to the upper and lower limbs. Injury to the spinal cord. Emergency surgery was done. Don't need that. It's obviously as a result of that. This is just to give you some ideas of how you can make it more concise, because, as I say, you don't need all this stuff anyway. Emergency surgery, total hip replacement, emergency surgery of total hip replacement or 8 total hip replacement, spinal intervention were done, stabilizing. So, I don't really need that. You can mention how long I was in the hospital, maybe, or when it was, but I don't need that. X-ray showed surgery, so you could probably condense that into a single sentence, right? A sentence or two. I don't need to know when he was moved to the orthopedic ward. Why do I need to know that? I don't need it. Now, I might need this. Okay. Rehabilitation, learn to adapt. Okay, a month later, mobilize. Now, it would be beneficial, I'm sure it would, but you don't need this, all this stuff. Kindly ensure, please assess, right? What OET says, if you can leave it out, a marker, you should do so. Like, additionally assess, please, kindly, you don't need it, right? We're trying to make it more concise. It's 274 words. Now, they don't count the words, but certainly, they will see that this is quite lengthy, and they'll say, well, I'm the occupational therapist. That could be summarized in a single sentence. All that could be actually done probably in 2 sentences, because I don't need it. What I need is that and this. So we don't need that. So I would appreciate it if you could assess Mr. Black's disability and rehabilitation to help him regain independence. And right, where's my cursor gone here? So we can put all this again into a sentence or 2. I appreciate it. If you could assess Mr. Black. Well, how can you assess a disability? We already know he's a paraplegic. If you could assess Mr. Black's home. So actually, we can probably take all of this out, because obviously it's to help him, regain, independence. You put it in the introduction, so we don't need it. So again, you could assess Mr. Black's house. We can get rid of that. Appreciate it'd be good to assess Mr. Black's house, because look, you have the aids, the necessary mods, which is basically saying the same thing. It's basically exactly the same thing, just in 2 sentences. So I would appreciate it if you could assess Mr. Black's house, make necessary modifications to help him adapt to a new condition. Is it important to like note? You could just say please kind of note. You'd have to say that. Obviously it's important. Please note. It requires a daily home visit for 2 weeks, or daily home visits for 2 weeks. Regular physio, due point to reserve issue of a pubic catheter. Right? So, you see what I'm talking about. This needs to be a lot more concise. A lot more, right? So, we could cut that right down. You've got the same thing kind of twice there that you don't actually need. That bit's good, that bit's good. You could put this into 2 sentences. Oh, sorry, yeah. You could put that into a sentence or 2 and bring the whole thing down to about 200 words. Or just over, right? And that would be fine. Yeah. So, there's a few more things probably we could cut down. So it was inserted as a result of urinary incontinence. Well, it's probably obviously due to that. So you don't need to, say that either. Investigation, was of treatment, recovery, and the permanent. Okay, so you could cut that out. Say you could like cut all this stuff down as well. Okay, so let me have a look. If we do that, let's see, the tools should work and show me. We can cut it down. Right, well, 213. Right, that's better than 274. All right, so. Not too bad. The English is good, but we have to consider this conciseness, clarity. It's got to be shorter, right? Unnecessary stuff. Who are you writing to? Occupational therapist. I don't need all that information, detail. Anything that could be left out, and how well the case is summarised. So that's down to your writing style. Okay, so hope that helps.